Good morning. Just want to tell everybody that we're setting up and we'll be on soon. We look forward to seeing you. Good morning. We know we have a couple of minutes, but we invite you to get yourself all situated. We call that making our nest.
Yes.
And we invite you to turn your screen on if possible. Thank you.
It's going to be dark, kind of dark on our screen because I have this projecting on an active board for a whole room full of people. So I just wanted to let y'all know we're not napping over here. We're just
Oh, yeah.
Good to know. I'm tired this morning, so if we are going to institute nap time and check out, I need somebody to let me know that because I want to join in.
I can't hear you yet.
we are big proponents of nap time here.
Yeah. We're going to start right on time today.
We have 9 o'clock.
Good morning, Jamie and Allison.
Oh,
Good morning, Beth Schaefer.
Okay, true confession to all my friends out there. I told my husband I didn't have anything to do today about 10:30 last night. And I woke up at 9 or 8:50 this morning and I said, oh, I'm supposed to be at a PD and supporting my friends Jamie and Allison. So my picture's not on there because I look like I might have just gotten out of bed, and I did.
We love your honesty.
I do.
We also understand that because yesterday, several times I was thinking, well, tomorrow I will. And then I think, oh my goodness, we're going to be doing math tomorrow.
Yeah, I said that yesterday, Beth. We were all together and I said, oh my gosh, we have nothing to do tomorrow. And she looked at me and said, I hope you have something to do tomorrow because I'm not doing it by myself.
Well, and I typically wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why. It's my new biological clock here. So, but good morning to all. I know you didn't come here to hear my sad story. Welcome to Hands On, Minds on Math with Allison Bemis and Jamie Spignardi from GREC. They're also our CEC friends and the math experts. I can't even say it right. Math experts. We are tickled to be here. I hope you all got your kits and you're where you can access those. This morning, I need everyone to put your first and last name, your employer name, and your birthday, month, day, and year in the chat. And I'm going to say that several times. I would rather you put it in there too many times than not enough. So anyone who's watching from your facility, please put that in the chat. I'm also going to look at the pictures and make a list. Amy Hood is going to enter this into TRIS for us. But again, I want to say thank you to Allison and Jamie, and thank you to you guys for getting up on Saturday morning, because now I'm feeling the pain of what am I supposed to do today? So without further ado, let's go to the experts. Thank you, Allison and Jamie.
Well, thank you, Beth. We're excited to be here. If you are in a place like you're at work with your friends, and we're excited that you're together, or if you're at home in a place where you can turn your camera on and you feel comfortable turning your camera on, we would encourage you to do so because it's going to be a highly interactive training. We also will be putting you in breakout rooms. We'll explain that a little bit later, but I just think sometimes it's nice since we can't be together in person, that helps us connect and read nonverbal body cues too, which, you know, is a part of communication. So we'll give you a few minutes through the first couple of activities to get ready for that. If you weren't anticipating, we tried to be sure that when we shared at CECC and when Beth sent out things that you understood this was not a presentation where we're just going to click through slides. Okay. This is a presentation that's going to be very much hands-on. Now, if you are like, I think, was it our friends at Foundation Christian Academy that said they have a whole bunch of them in one room and we're on an active board. If we can't see you because you're playing and exploring together, that's okay. Just make sure when you come back to the breakout room, because you might be working with someone who is the only person at that childcare center, that somebody comes back to the screen to communicate with that person, okay?
Yeah, you can have a reporter. Or
Absolutely. It could be one of your student jobs. Now, we also want to share.
Come on over, Caroline.
This is my niece, Caroline, and I still think of her as the little 3-year-old that I used to pick up at childcare, but she has volunteered to get up early or now she's a 17-year-old. She's not a 3-year-old. Don't be surprised anymore. And she's volunteered to come over early and help us with this workshop. And she's getting some volunteer credit. So we're all so glad you're here, Caroline. She doesn't love the attention. Can you tell? It's kind of a nightmare. Okay. But we're just tickled she's here. We're going to go ahead and get started because we want to honor your time. This is from 9 until 12 today. And I promise that I will have, if I'm still talking at 12 o'clock, I'm going to have one of these people just hit end
We're gonna
meeting.
Bonker.
It doesn't matter what we're doing because this is your Saturday and we're going to honor your time. Okay. I don't know why I lean in, like I can actually come through the screen like a horror movie. I'm going to try not to do that today. Okay.
Well, I think leaning in is a motion that you really want to be there with them.
I'm virtually hugging you when I lean in. So
That's
just know
right.
that.
We're big huggers. And so we've not been able to hug people in a year.
Get this show on the road. This is we presented last Saturday to Hardin County CECC, and we were all three together then too, but that was our first time with all three of us together since all of this started. So you're seeing a special day for us.
Go. Everything's always where I want to press my button. You know, it never fails. Here we go.
We could probably close out of the chat for right now.
You could.
All right, so this is our Bitmojis. We created this before we knew we were going to have our Biscuit here with us, Angel Biscuit, and so
Angel Biscuit is a term of endearment.
it is. Angel Biscuit is her nickname. So this is the routine for this workshop. We will do these 3 things with 4 different books that you have in your kit. And Beth told me several of you were excited to get your kits, and that made me very happy because we really spent a lot of time thinking about things that might be fun for you and your littles to explore together. So I was glad already that you were excited about them. We will read or sing a song together that will inspire our math investigation. We will explore together, and you will do each of these explorations just like your children will do. So you'll put on your kid hat for a moment, and then you're going to take off your kid hat, and you're going to talk about these things as the educators you are. You're going to align them to standards and talk about Erikson progressions, and that's when you'll be in your breakout rooms. We'll do that not after every activity, but we'll do that after every book. So you might be talking about multiple activities, but we'll explain that a little better later. But those are the 3 things we're going to do over and over today. We're going to start off today by singing together. Now, Beth has already shared this and she put it in email, but if you're just now joining us, I'm just going to say it again. Remember to say hello in the chat box. And when you say hello, make sure you put your name, your employer name, and your birthday in that format, okay? So let's go ahead and stop the screen share and let's just look at everybody while we do this. Does that sound good? Jamie?
Sounds wonderful.
All right. So this is a Hello Friend song that I got from, I see Elizabeth is on here from the Warren County Public Library. I got this from some of our library friends. My son did a story time. And I can't remember if it was with Miss Tamara or if it was with you, Elizabeth, but they sang the Hello Friend song and I loved it so much. I've done it at so many trainings. So we're going to start. And so we're just make sure that you know these signs. So do these together at your childcare center, even if we can't see you. And if you're on camera, we want to see you, okay? So you're going to start off by signing hello. So everybody practice that, hello. And then friends, as you take your 2 fingers and cross them over each other, that's friends. Okay, so you'll put that together, ready? So you'll say hello, friends. And the other sign you'll need to know is it's time to say hello. Okay, so let's sing it together, ready? Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. It's time to say hello.
Thank
Yay,
you.
thank you. So we just want to start that off just like you. We wanted this to, in many ways, reflect your day with children. And I know we know, not even hopefully, we know you start with songs and good morning songs. And so it's a beautiful way to start the day. So we just wanted to start that way with you. And for that to be a reminder that if you have not put your information in the chat box, please do.
Here you go.
I should go ahead and apologize that I have a dog in the room also. This is a busy room. I have my 3rd grader, I have my husband, I have my niece, this is my mother too. If you've not been to one of our trainings before, Jamie and I work together, but we're also mother and daughter.
Yes.
And occasionally our dog has to keep us very safe from things outside. So you might hear her.
Yes. So yesterday, I just for fun, I took the dog home with me. She's never done this. She stayed about 5 hours. She would not go to the bathroom the entire time she was there because she was so frightened because I live in the middle of the city and there were all those sounds. So when you hear those barks, they're just play barks.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a very happy dog. So we hear a lot about math and young children, and one thing that we really want you to think about is the relationship between NACCE and NCTM, because we know that a positive attitude starts with you. All the adults in our lives really help to form our belief systems, and it's sometimes unconsciously we can slip up and say something like, "Oh my, I was not good in math," or maybe you might even say, "I wasn't good with algebra," or whatever, and our kids start thinking, well, I may not be good either. But so that attitude and that belief system really start. But we know this, when you work with exploring and measuring and thinking and problem solving, you love that with your kids. And that is mathematics with young children. And what's one reason why everything we do today is going to be anchored in a literacy activity. Now, we're going to be sharing later this Google slide deck. Now, there's a link. When you click on this red NCTM and NACCE link, you're going to see a lot of things about this relationship between these two organizations. I should tell you, NCTM is the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics. And of course, NACCE is the National Council for Education of Young Children. I know you know that one. You might not be as familiar with the mathematics one. But one thing, early on, a lot of our content standard people really didn't involve our young children. They left us out. They started at first, they only started with upper grades, middle and high. Then they moved to elementary. Now, finally, they're getting it. We should start with families even when we think about the content. So we mentioned that numeracy complements literacy, and that we even talk about mathematics in terms of mathematical literacy. Later today, Allison's going to be talking to you and showing you activities that you might do with your materials that you receive that involve things like sorting. But before you can sort, you must have language. We witnessed that firsthand. We were working with a group of 3 and 4-year-olds that many of them didn't have a lot of language in their lives for all kinds of reasons, and they really had difficulty sorting. So we just stopped what we were doing with trying to sort, and we just described, and we saw how when the language came, they were able to do the mathematical system pieces too. So numerate means being able to reason with numbers. It means to work with number concepts. So a lot of the things you're going to see right now, we don't realize it, but it impacts algebra too. You are the foundation. You are the building block for that whole house. And we know what happens. The foundation's not good, the house falls. No matter how good the roof is, it won't matter if the foundation's not right. So we appreciate you, we believe in you, and we know you're the ones.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in and we're going to read our first book. So if you have not gotten the inch by inch book out of your kit yet, out of your bag, please grab that out of your bag. And I'm not going to screen off and zoom in on the book because you each have this book in front of you, and that's the best way to see it, okay? So this is Inch by Inch by Leo Lionni. This is a classic book. It's been around for a long time, and we're going to show you some different things that you can do with this. We have some older books that are classics and some newer books.
Mm-hmm. And it's just such an award-winning book that you can sell by the illustrations. It's a priceless piece of art, really.
Mm-hmm. It was either a Caldecott winner or a Caldecott honor. I'm not sure.
I think
Which
it's on
one?
the screen there. I can't read that.
Okay. One day, a hungry robin saw an inchworm, green as an emerald, sitting on a twig. He was about to gobble him up. Don't eat me. I'm an inchworm. I'm useful. I measure things. Is that so? Said the robin. Then measure my tail. Did you know that worms can measure things? That's easy, said the inchworm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. Just think, said the robin. My tail is 5 inches long. And with the inchworm, he flew to where the other birds were that needed to be measured. The inchworm measured the neck of the flamingo. We just saw some flamingos.
We did.
At the Nashville Zoo.
Yes, and they were quite active.
Oh my gosh, they were putting on a show. And then I thought they were going to attack us at one point. Have any of you ever had that happen? Had a flock of flamingos come at you? He measured the toucan's beak.
It's a little bit of alliteration there, a flock of flamingos.
Was. I don't even know if they're called a flock. I have to look that up. The legs of a heron. Heron's eyes. Can you see that on that
Ooh.
page? He looks very
Mean eyes.
yeah. I feel like there's a right answer. That's sometimes that's how I look when I'm measuring my body. It's very serious, you know. The tail of the pheasant. And a whole hummingbird. One morning, the nightingale met the inchworm. Measure my song, said the nightingale. But how can I do that, said the inchworm. I measure things, not songs. Measure my song or I'll eat you for breakfast, said the nightingale. Then the inchworm had an idea. I'll try. Go ahead and sing. How do you measure a song? If any of you work in music, you may hear about measures and songs. That would be a cool connection to bring in. The nightingale sang and the inchworm measured away. He measured and measured. Inch by inch. Until he inched out of sight. He was a clever little inchworm, wasn't he? Yeah, I love that book. So obviously you would want to read it once just for enjoyment, put it out in the center so children became familiar with it. Well, we're going to let you brainstorm more ideas of things you might do with this book, but I want to do a couple of activities with you first. So what you need to do either by yourself or with your friends in your center, you need to get out your worms. You may have already anticipated that they went with this book. And dump all or some of your worms out. And I want you to notice things about these worms as you pull them out.
You know, I wonder if somebody might want to unmute and tell me what they notice.
May not be comfortable with that yet, but they will.
I'm seeing that there's 4 different colors and 4 different sizes.
Elizabeth noticed there were 4 different colors and 4 different sizes. Did anyone else have anything else they noticed?
Our group says that we noticed that the worms are textured.
Oh, they do have
Oh.
texture.
Yeah. You know, I wonder if that could be something you could measure, those joints and things that they have, those segments of the worm. Interesting.
I noticed something that surprised me is I thought at first that all the long ones were going to be blue, but then I kept pulling them out and I noticed, oh no, that's a green one that's the same length. So they're not color coded. You know, sometimes manipulatives that we use with children, all of the long ones will be the same color. So it's really easy to pull out the same size, but you've really got to compare the lengths to get the same size here.
And I think it's really nice for using non-standard units of measure that they do have that much variance because it's so easy just to kind of go standard.
Yeah. So hopefully you've had some time now while we were talking to pull these out, and you should have found a really tiny one. This is my yellow tiny inchworm. He's the smallest. And then there's one that's just a little bit bigger. And I'll hold the tiny one up to compare. And then there's one that's just a little bigger, a little longer, all the way to my longest worm. So what I'm going to ask that you do is just like the picture in the bottom corner, I want you to lay out your inchworms in order from longest to shortest, or shortest to longest. You can go either way. That will help you be ready for our game.
And if you have several of you sitting together, each of you would like to have your own little set.
You
have-
can if you want to. You don't have to. You can work together. You can have one per pair or per triad. That's what it's called. If you're in a group of 3, you're in a triad. I didn't know that for a while until I was at a training and someone told us to get in triads, and I thought we were making shapes with our body maybe. But if we say get in a triad, you're in a group of 3 or a group of 2.
That could be fun, Caroline.
Yeah, so I was going to be doing something totally different. But you just need one set, and I'm going to ask you to, let's move this so I can see a little better. Okay, so now you're ready for our game. So we are going to stop the screen share so that we can see what everyone's doing now, okay? And you are going to get your, Caroline, help me pick. Do we want them to start with their longest one or a different size?
The shortest.
Oh, the shortest. Caroline has picked, she wants you to pick the shortest worm. So everyone hold up your shortest worm, okay, that you found. And your first challenge, this is a seek and find game. We're gonna give you about 30 seconds, okay? Go find something that is bigger, that is longer than your shortest worm, okay? Go find something longer than your shortest worm. Oh, some of you are fast. We're gonna have 15 seconds for this. All right, hold it up to the camera. What did you find? What's bigger than your shortest worm? All right, everyone look. I would like for one friend to unmute and tell us what you found.
We found a railroad track is bigger than the little worm.
Oh, a railroad track is longer than the little worm. Nice job. I like that sentence starter. Can we use that sentence starter for everyone from now on? Okay. So I would say, if I was going to use her sentence starter, I would say, the cat is longer than the inchworm. Okay. So this time I want you to see if you can go find something shorter than your inchworm. And we're
Ooh.
starting out.
It's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, because it's so little. I usually wouldn't start with a small one, but Caroline wanted to challenge you,
That's
okay?
right.
So go find something shorter than your smallest inchworm. Do that, okay. Okay, so I found, actually Caroline found it. I can't take credit. Everybody hold it up to the, hope I can get a hold of it. It's tiny. Hold it up to your camera. All right, can one friend mic on, and let's use that sentence starter that someone started. The blank is shorter than the inchworm. Okay.
I found, okay, sorry, I'm gonna use a sentence. The seed is shorter than the inchworm.
Fabulous, good job. All right, let's hear another friend.
I found that the pinky fingernail is shorter than the worm.
Ooh. Love it. One more friend. I saw a mic mute and unmute really fast. So if you're talking, we might not be able to hear you. Did you change your mind? Okay, I usually have an impeccable wait time, but we have several opportunities to share. So I'm gonna go ahead. I found this tiny leaf. Caroline found it. Can you even see it on my finger? It's from this plant. And she said, Aunt Allison, pull a tiny leaf off of that plant. It's so little, so short. So I found this tiny leaf is shorter than the inchworm. Okay, Here we go. Now we're going to switch all the way. Hold up your longest worm. Longest worm. See it? Okay. I want you to go find something that's about the same size. It's about the same length as this longest inchworm, okay? So go hunt. Okay, my friends, when you have found it, hold it up to the screen. All right, can I have a friend share something you found?
You're too big. Back it up with him.
There you go. You're unmuted.
The mouse is as long as a purple worm.
Nice job. Nice job. The mouse is as long as the purple worm.
Yes, the language is so neat.
Ooh, someone has something fantastic in the screen that's my husband's favorite treat. I hope that they will unmic and share. Unmute. I think it's Tina Porter. You're the next one.
Hey, the Christmas tree cake is about as long as my longest worm.
Oh, I wish I had that that's as long as your longest worm. Thank you. Nice job. All right, one more friend. What did you find that was about the same length as your longest worm?
This game from McDonald's Operation is about the same size as this.
It is. Nice. Mama found this house. I call her Mama because the children call her Mama. You can call her Mama. She'd be
That's fine.
tickled, okay? So about the same length. All right, we're gonna keep our longest worm this time, okay? And I'm gonna continue making it a little bit trickier. Can you find something that's about the same length as 2 of your longest worms? Okay, so you can do this in a couple ways. You can use one worm and you can lay it out twice, or if you needed to, if that's too tricky, you could get out another longest worm, okay? But you can do it with just one worm, so go hunt. All right, if you found something, you can hold it up to the camera. What did you find that was half the size? Oh, wow. Can I have a friend unmute and tell us what you found?
Okay. The big worm or the little worm is half the size of the big worm.
Oh. Now, when you say the little worm, you're not talking about the smallest one, right? You're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the second smallest worm is half the size of the big worm. What a great observation. All right, someone else. One more friend.
My staple remover is half the size of my large worm.
Nice job.
Oh, the
Nice
leprechaun
job.
pincher.
The leprechaun pincher. Yes, we were in a meeting on St. Patrick's Day and someone shared that a child had gotten that. Not recently, this is a while ago. And used that as a leprechaun pincher on St. Patrick's Day, the staple remover. That's a painful memory, I'm sure.
Literally.
Literally. Okay.
I got a contact case. It's like half the size of the large worm.
Perfect. Look
Oh,
at
it
that.
is, it is.
No, these objects that we use every day that we've really never thought about, how do they compare to the length of a worm before, right? I bet you've used the contact case and your scissors all the time and not thought about how long are they compared to a worm, and today you have. Okay.
Miranda. The Miranda.
Okay. Did you have something else you want to share? You sure? Okay. I didn't mean to unclick it. I just, sometimes if I hear background noise, I will mute it, only because I have been the person that's accidentally unmuted before and talking and not mean to share my whole conversation with the entire group of people. So I'm doing that to try to protect you, not to silence you. So if I ever mute you and you want to say something, you just, let us know that. But that's what we generally try to do, that just to protect you. And also it cuts down on background noise, but yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next activity, and we're going to go to the share screen again.
Go up here to desktop. There you
Yeah, I have to hit share.
go. There.
Okay. So for our second activity with the worms, this activity may look a little bit different if you are working by yourself versus if you're working with a group of people. Okay, so start off, the only thing you're going to need for right now is a longest worm. And if you have several people there with you, like if you're with a large group of people, you may want to work in partners or triads for this. So make sure that each group would have a longest worm. If you're by yourself, you just need one longest worm. And you need to choose the person that will be measured, okay? You might remember in Inch by Inch that the worm was measuring parts of birds. So if I were doing this with kids and it was our second time reading the book or third time reading the book together, we might go back and sequence the story with pictures and remember the different things that the inchworm had measured. So one thing I remember is that he measured that flamingo neck, because flamingos are just fresh on my brain. And so you can decide if you want to measure your entire body. If you're working with a partner, like if Jamie wants to lie down and I can measure her whole body with this inchworm, or if you're working by yourself or you don't have a large space, you may choose just to measure your hand or just to measure your arm. And this is not an exact measurement. This is just an estimate. So you may decide, oh, my arm is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 long inchworms. Okay. So you decide if you are measuring a body part or the entire length of your body. Okay. And that's your next activity. So I'm going to stop screen share. Probably while we've been talking, you've gone ahead and decided if you're working by yourself or you're working in a partner. If you're working by yourself, you'll just do what I did and you'll just measure different body parts. You can record that if you want it to look back at, or you can just do it for exploration. But we're going to give you, how long do you think to do the body part measurement before we come back?
I think it might take 3 minutes.
3
if
minutes?
they're really going to do the whole body.
Okay, so we're going to give you 3 minutes and at least get one body part or one body measured. Okay, so we're going to pause the recording for 3 minutes and we'll come back. I see most people are coming back. All freshly worm measured. All right.
All freshly wormed?
All freshly wormed.
That's an all new meaning.
Okay. I measured Caroline, as you may have seen if you were back early. And Caroline, I measured her whole length, was about 16 3/4 worms.
Mm-hmm.
She was not quite 17 worms. She was almost 17 worms.
So she's really almost a worm per year.
Oh, because she's 17. Whoa.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I hadn't thought about that. So we would like for 3 friends to mic on and share what you measured and how many worms long they were.
So I got the joy of laying on the floor and getting measured, and I am 15.5 worms.
Oh, 15.5 worms. So what do we know then? What inference can we make? If she is 15.5 worms and Caroline was almost 17 worms. Now they aren't next to each other, but what inference can we make based on that? She's 15.5 worms and Caroline 17 worms. What do we know?
We know that Caroline is taller.
We know that Caroline is taller. Yeah.
Caroline is the tallest person here in our room right now.
Yeah. Like I know I haven't measured myself, but I know I wouldn't be 17 worms. But now I'm wondering if I might be 15 and a half worms. Okay. All right. During a break, we're gonna answer that wondering question. Okay. Someone else tell me, what did you learn about your friend or yourself? We're gonna have 2 more people share.
My hand is a worm and an inch. And half an inch long.
A worm and a half.
Worm and a half.
A worm and a half. Her hand is a worm and a half. You know, raise your hand if you put that worm up against your hand right now to compare. Anybody else do that? I did that. I wanted to know how I compared to her.
How many worms is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 long ones and one thumb and one small. I guess a small.
Oh, and that was your arm?
Oh, was she talking? Oh. We measured, her arm.
Uh-huh.
And it's 6 long ones and then like the second to the shortest.
Oh. So you
like this size.
They are going to get a more accurate measurement, and they said it was 6 long ones and then 1 of the second to the shortest. Is that right?
Yes, or something like that.
Okay.
Yes.
And am I remembering correctly that second to the shortest was half of the longest? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Oh no, that's weird. Kiss your brain.
All of that language. Okay. Good talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, who would think that we could do so much measuring with just a jar of worms?
All right. One more friend share. And then we're getting ready to put our worms away.
My partner and I measured, and our arms were both 6 worms long, but our bodies were different lengths. So I was 14 and she was 16.
Oh,
so we found that obviously I have a short body. But our arms are the same.
So your arms were the same length, but your bodies were different lengths. That's interesting, isn't it?
That's worms.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Okay, now what were you going to say? Were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say how interesting we talk about the arm length, because before Caroline was born and I was at her ultrasound, because I am her grandmother, they measured length of her arms and they predicted how tall she would be. So it's interesting how your arms are the same length, but you are different heights. So that's an estimate.
It is an estimate. It is and we're all making connections to this, right? So how many of you are thinking about, oh, I have longer arms and I have shorter arms, right? Or, oh, I have this family member and we look the same height when we sit down, but when we stand up, we're different heights. And are you thinking of those personal connections? Or she thought of an ultrasound. When you shared that, I had to go to Vanderbilt for an ultrasound with my older child. It all was okay, but he had low fluid, so they were really looking at everything. And she looked at me, and if you've not been with me in person, I'm not a very tall person. And she said, whoa, his arms and legs are 2 weeks ahead of his body. Well, this was my first child, so I'm thinking, how did that happen? And then she's like, and it doesn't look like that fits you. So she looks at my husband and she's like, do you have anyone even taller in your family? She went over all of our history. So that's interesting that what we're using here today, although we're doing it with worms, was really used by doctors and radiologists when they're looking at development of science. Yeah, of young children. The other thing that
they're looking at patterns.
They're looking for patterns. And that's what I was just getting ready to say.
I'm sorry.
So that's okay. So when we do this, we're looking for patterns. Okay. So we're noticing, oh, you know what? About half of the second smallest worm is about half of the longest worm. When we're doing all of that, there are so many math skills that we're thinking about. One of the ones that might not come to mind right away, I think fractions come to mind right away. Right? Nod your head at me if you thought of fractions. Okay. And fair shares come to mind. Measuring obviously comes to mind, but also algebraic thinking. So later, when children are in algebra, if you've done activity, okay, so how many of you remember when you were in middle school, or sometimes they do it even in sixth grade, or they do it in high school too, and you're in geometry? And you have the length of two sides of the triangle, and you're trying to figure out the third side, or you have the length of three sides of the square, Pythagorean theorem, or you have a different size, a different shape, and you are trying to estimate and do math to figure out the different side lengths. Doing this type of thing, building this foundation with things like these worms, is what helps build the foundation for children to be able to do Pythagorean theorem and other things later.
And ratio and proportionality.
Yeah.
We think about recipes and ratios,
Yeah.
How many times during the pandemic did we change a recipe with thinking of that way? Because we didn't need to have maybe that much, or we need to have maybe think about because we had a different ingredient.
Yeah. So if you ever had, and sometimes when you have someone come in, so I want you to think about this in every activity we do from here on out, okay? Sometimes people will come in and they'll just see kids playing with worms. And you think, oh, they're just playing with some plastic worms, right? Because that's what it looks like whenever parents or administrators or anyone else comes in. But what you can actually say is, you know what, I'm really building the foundation for algebraic thinking, or I'm really building the foundation for ratios later, okay? It always connects. It always connects. And sometimes I think we don't see that, but you're doing such important work.
Because the real definition of mathematics is it's the science of pattern.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for those of you that have wondering of how long were these worms, now these were non-standard units of measurements, how we use them. They weren't, we do measure things by a foot, right? And so that is a standard unit of measurement, and horses measure by hands. But for the most part, when you're measuring things by worms, or by your actual feet, or by your actual hands, that's called non-standard measurement. And it's so important that kids have opportunities to explore measurement using non-standard things, objects, and things they collected, paper clips, pencils, anything. It doesn't have to be these worms. I like these worms because it connects to that story inch by inch, but truthfully, you can use a cup. You can use anything that the child might go outside and find, a stick, and that can become your measurement tool. That's the beauty of non-standard units of measurement. But because we're adults and we know about standard units of measurement, this is the actual, the measurement. So the smallest one is an inch. It's truly an inch worm. The second is 2 inches. The third is 3 inches. And the longest is 4 inches. And look, most of you, or many of you, compared that second shortest to the longest, and you said it looks like it's about half. Were you right? Yeah, it's exactly half, okay? So it's 2 inches. So I just wanted to show you that. We're gonna put you in breakout rooms now for about 5 minutes. And these are the 2 questions that we want you to discuss in those breakout rooms. So one is, where's the mathematics in these activities? Where is the math? And 2, how does this connect to the early childhood standards and Erikson progressions? And so let me show you where to find those. In just a minute, I'm going to put our PowerPoint link in the chat box. So then on your computer, you can open up and you'll have access to the PowerPoint we're going to use for the rest of the day. And if you look at the very next slide, we went ahead and pulled out the standards for 3s and 4s for Kentucky, the Kentucky Early Childhood Standards for Mathematics. And then the very next slide are the big ideas from Erikson with measurement. So that's just the next 2 slides. You'll know if you've gone too far because you'll get to our next book. Okay, so give me just a minute to get that dropped in the chat box. But while I'm getting that dropped in the chat box, you can go ahead and start discussing where is the mathematics in these activities. Now, I will say, I'm gonna go back so I can see you. I will say that we did do a little more debriefing and talking on this one as a modeling. When we get into some of the other lessons, we're gonna let you guys just hunt in and find the mathematics, okay? So we'll have about 5 minutes in these groups. If you've not done a Zoom meeting before in breakout rooms, it's getting ready to pop up a little box that says the host, or it might say Jamie, but it says the host invited you to breakout room 2, or the host invited you to breakout room 3. And you will just click accept, and then you don't have to worry about getting back into the main breakout room. We will bring you back automatically, okay?
Okay, we're getting that share for us.
So click copy link.
Okay.
Would you like me to do it?
Yeah, be great. And go back to chat and put it in, because we have to you have to get it out of chat before we go to breakout.
Okay. All right, so there you go. So if you open that, that will open our PowerPoint. Then it has the other. Oh, look, Lori Baker wrote a flock of flamingos as a flamboyance.
Oh,
I love
wow.
that.
Don't you love that word?
Yeah. Okay. So if you click there, go ahead and make sure you have that open before we put you in breakout rooms, because Jamie said once you're in breakout rooms, you won't be able to access that until you come back. So go ahead and make sure that you have that open. That way you can look at the early child. I mean, if you have your own copy of Early Childhood Standards and Erickson Progressions, you can definitely use that. It's the same. Okay. All right.
Okay, we're going to go to breakout.
Okay, so we've started the recording again, and we've posted that we heard from one friend that they weren't able to get that link. So we've posted that. I always call it a PowerPoint. It's a Google slide deck, but you just know what I mean. Just convert that in your mind. If you hear me say PowerPoint, that's my age. Okay. So the Google slide deck is pasted. We should have all of our friends back now, I think. It has been 60 seconds. So everyone's back. And I'd love to hear, let's do a 3 list. Sometimes with kids, I would do a fist list, and that meant we were going to do all 5 things. But I would love to hear 3 ideas that you shared and talked about in your breakout session. It can be other ways you'd use this book. It can be alignment to standards or alignment to Erickson. You choose. Just 3 ideas. One group.
Go ahead. I unmuted.
I talked about, we have one student who is academically ready for things like using these as fractions, but we have a lot of students who it's easier just to count and measure with. So like they're very, very versatile with what you can do with them and who you can use them with. So.
Absolutely. What a great conversation. When you pick a great book or a great manipulative, it's going to lend itself to differentiation and personalization for your kids. What a great, powerful conversation you had. All right. 2 more. 2 more friends.
One of the things that we talked about in my group, especially with my kiddos, is working on one-to-one correspondence. So like being able to say, this is 1 and 2, and maybe not necessarily using all the different sizes, but especially because I have a lot of boys, and so they'll love these.
Excellent. I think that you're correct about, especially when you're introducing it as one-to-one correspondence, I would start with using only one size with children. Now, I may start by putting them all out and letting them share what they notice, because I even do that with older children. Like when we start using, the place value pieces with like hundreds blocks, ones blocks, and like sometimes they call it like little cubes and rods and flats. Even before I start teaching place value to older children, I put those out, and I learned this from Jamie. You let them just play with them first and tell you all the things that they notice. But then once you do that, I think you're spot on. If you're working on one-to-one correspondence, pick one size to look at. All right, great.
And some little hands need the larger size.
Absolutely. So you're going to know that about your children and their developmental level and their readiness level. You may choose never to use the inch size.
Right.
Now, while these say they're for 3+, there are certainly several 3-year-olds that I would be hesitant to put out the 1 inch, right? Maybe even the 2 inch. But that long one that's 4 inches is going to be a safer choice. Okay. So I'm glad you brought that up too. All right. One more friend. I would love to hear what you shared.
So we would probably use them a lot for, some of our kids are dual language learners. So these would be really great to help them learn some of the language and the critical thinking skills that they need for their math foundation, like bigger, smaller, more, just like sorting and, like she said, just let them play with them first and see what they notice, and then start giving them some language that goes with it.
If you start,
Are you on mute?
Oh, I'm
Sorry,
so
I had
sorry.
it. That way we didn't have feedback. Go ahead.
yes. So, if you do just put it out, it's almost like a self-assessment. If you just put it out and listen to their language, then you can like have a little checklist and things and be able to think about and see which words do they naturally use? What vocabulary do they already own? And sometimes it's surprising both ways.
Yeah. So a lot of times, and I was guilty of this as a teacher too, sometimes I would think, oh, I can't put that in their math center until I have taught them how to use it. Okay. Like I know we've all been guilty of that before, but actually you could put this book and then a worm, either one size worm or a few different sizes of worms without instruction out, and let them look through that book, and they could actually measure the beaks, like measure the bird beak, or I can see that fitting in a science center, right? With large pictures of animals. I can see it fitting in a dramatic play center. I can see it fitting in a reading center, and I can see it fitting in a math center. And there's probably other places. You might think of art connections and other connections, but I easily think once you'd read that book out loud to children, I wouldn't hesitate to put that out and let them explore it in small groups or in centers, and then show them how to use it as maybe you intended it for it to be used.
And that's the engagement of an open-ended task of a good quality piece of children's literature and the manipulatives together.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to the next book. So the next book that you will need to get out while I get our screen share started is Color Zoo.
And again, it's just a gorgeous book. Let me click on the other PowerPoint there. There we go.
Okay. Get our chat out of the way. Okay. So we didn't talk about the alignment to Erikson progressions, but that's okay. I'm sure that they talked about that. We need to move on to the next activity. And
we'll
next time when we
next.
debrief, we'll make sure that we break it down. Okay. All right. You going to read Color Zoo for us?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I know you've noticed about Color Zoo and about how gorgeous this book is too. And so you have it at your room. So again, we're going to,
yeah, I know we're really small right now because we have the PowerPoint up, but you have this book in front of you. So
Yes.
make sure you just are looking at your copy.
yes. So Color Zoo by Lois Ehlert. I love this book because so much is going on, even on the front cover. Predicting about what this book is about, when you just look at the front cover and you look at the title, there's a lot of inference to be made there. And I'm sure you have those kinds of conversations with your kiddos. Our first is tiger, circle, mouse, square, box, triangle, square, triangle, circle. And what are these? More circles. Oh, wow. Let's see how these go together. Ox, rectangle, monkey, oval. Looks like an oval track. Deer, heart, rectangle, oval, heart. Ooh, open blank space. Lion, diamond, goat. Ooh, look at the goat's beard. Octagon. Ooh, snake. It's a good thing Jonah's not here because he knows I do not like snakes. He teases me about snakes. Hexagon, hexagon, octagon, diamond. Mickey Mouse calls it a diamond too. And we know there's another word for diamond. What is that word, Alice?
Rhombus.
That's right, rhombus.
So let's talk about that. Have you finished the
Yes.
book? Okay. So you know what, I'm gonna stop screen share because we're gonna have a serious conversation real quick. We're gonna have a TED Talk, okay?
Little TED Talk.
I debated not using this book, okay? Although this is one of my favorite books and by one of my favorite authors. A foundation that we incorrectly lay in media and as parents that is confusing to children later is there's actually not a shape called a diamond. There's not, if we're thinking about math as that we're building the foundation for understanding later, children are not ever going to use the word diamond when they're learning about shapes. And really, sometimes we see it in kindergarten too. But this shape right here is not really a diamond. So if this were a book in my classroom, I would read it just like it is to children and say, you know, everybody makes mistakes, even authors. And I can say that because I am an author and I've made a lot of mistakes, and publishers. And because we're using this book, because you're going to be mathematicians and you're going to be scientists, and I know that your brain is very smart and you can learn all of the real words, I'm going to teach you the real word. And the real word for this shape is called a rhombus, okay? And so I would actually probably cover that and put the word rhombus on there. Because later when children are in school, rhombus is the word they're going to have to know and understand. Some other common rhombuses that you know, and a rhombus means it has 4 straight lines, okay? So do we have 4 straight lines? And it has 4 corners. And then I would let children, what are other shapes you know that have 4 straight lines and 4 corners? Can anyone think of another shape you know that has 4 straight lines and 4 corners? What's a shape you know? With 4 sides.
Square.
A square is also a rhombus.
Rectangle.
Rectangle is also a rhombus.
And a square is also a rectangle.
That is another misconception that happens all the way through elementary school. All squares are rectangles because a rectangle's definition, like a rhombus, is that it has 2 sets of parallel lines. So everybody make parallel lines with your arms. Okay, make another set of parallel lines. All right, so the definition of a rectangle actually is just that it has 2 sets of parallel lines and 4 sides, and it's a closed figure. So does a square have 2 sets of parallel lines? Does it have 4 sides? So actually, all squares are rectangles. So when you're teaching a child and you hear them say, and I will say I have taught up to 6th grade, and I didn't know for a long time until I really studied the definition of shapes that I had a misconception about shapes. Most of our parents have a misconception about shapes, but it comes into play later when children are really learning about shapes and geometry and understanding how to find measurements of things later. So, and even in 3rd grade when they're identifying shapes. So if you think about that, if a child accidentally calls this a rectangle, what do we typically say? Oh no, that's not a rectangle because a rectangle has to have 2 long sides. And that's actually not true, okay? A square is a really special rectangle that has sides of equal length.
Just like you're a girl, but you're a special girl because you're named Allison.
Right. See how
And
we have
that's-
those categories?
And that's what we do with the children.
Right. So I'm a
This is
girl.
rectangle. A rectangle can't be a square.
Hey, Allison, I have a question about that. If
Yeah.
you got, when
I
you look
do.
up the definition of a rectangle, it says that it's a plane figure with 4 straight sides and 4 right angles, especially one with unequal adjacent sides.
It doesn't have to have unequal sides. There's a lot of articles when you work in higher level math. So where are you finding that definition?
I just Googled it.
Yeah, when you work with math and when you work with upper grades maths, they do not have to have sides of unequal lengths. Now, the most common rectangle that people will notice and point out will be the rectangle with unequal sides, but the true definition of a rectangle is just about parallel lines.
Two sets.
Another thing too that that I've always used with my preschool classes is I teach them that the corner is called a vertices.
That's
And they
right.
love saying that word. It's a cool word to say, you know. So instead of calling things corners, we call them vertices.
I love that. I love that. That's the same as changing. Like, there's nothing wrong with diamond. If a child calls it a diamond and you see that they're identifying that as a diamond, wouldn't make a big deal out of it that it's the wrong word. I would just say, just like when you hear a child call it the corner, you probably say something like, oh, you know what? I have a really special mathematician word that I want to share with you about this. Okay. And so you would share that it's the vertices. I would do the same thing with diamond. Okay. Now, preschool, I probably wouldn't go into the conversation if they identify that as a square, unless it was a child that was really, really interested in shapes. I probably wouldn't say, hey, did you know this is also a rectangle? But if a child calls it a rectangle, I wouldn't tell them that they're wrong, because later when they get into, especially third grade is usually when they really start to study that. I taught third grade for several years. And really understand, build on the foundation that we're laying here about shapes and what they know. That was a misconception. And I did not teach it to children then. I let them discover it. So we would put up the definition of each shape and have them re-identify and sort shapes just like you do in preschool, but they did it from the definitions that they read.
But even Mickey Mouse makes those mistakes.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse always calls it a diamond. And so I just think that that's fun. Now, why did we still use this book? Because it's a fantastic book. Okay. And I choose to read books for lots of different reasons that offer the opportunity for a rich discussion. Now, when you just look at this book that's just shapes and words, at first glance, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of rich conversation from that book, right? But it's a really good way. But did we have a rich conversation from that book? Yeah. Anytime I'm talking about shapes, with any age level, I just like to bring out the diamond and the square. And I think the most important thing that we can do is just if a child calls it a diamond, not say, oh, you're wrong. Just say, oh, you know what? I'd like to teach you another name, just like vertices. That was a beautiful example. Okay. So here's what you need to get out now. Okay. So you will need to get out your shape sensory bin. And I'm holding it up if you can find my little square. It's got the purple beads in it. And there's a little package of shapes also. I want you to open those up. And so you'll open your beads, pour it in your sensory bin if you've not already. Open your shapes, pour them in the bin, and then you will kind of bury them down. Now, just like you did with your worms, if you want to wonder or notice things as you touch your shapes and put them in, feel free to do that. But once you do that, you are ready for our next exploration. I'll give you a few seconds to get all that opened and pour in. Okay, so for our first activity, we are going to explore the attributes of shape. And earlier when Jamie, we're gonna do this activity really twice today with two different sets of materials. So we're gonna do it now, and then our very final activity will be very similar to what we're gonna do with these shapes, okay? So we're starting with something that looks more like a math manipulative in a sensory bin, and we're gonna move to objects later, okay? So we're gonna bury these deep in here. And this first activity, you will do completely with your eyes closed, okay? So if you're by yourself, you just do it with your eyes closed, or if you're with a partner, they are gonna watch one time, or if you're with a group of people, because you may only have one set of materials if you're with several friends from your center, and you will describe. So Jamie shared earlier that we worked with some children, and we've done this several different places, and we tried to start with a sorting lesson, and we quickly realized that they were not ready yet for sorting because they didn't know how to recognize and share the vocabulary for attributes yet. So we're going to close our eyes and we're going to feel and describe. So I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to feel for my favorite shape. It's like finding a treasure. Okay. So I have found a shape and my eyes are still closed and I'm going to feel it. And it feels smooth and it feels hard like it's plastic. And I feel just lines. I feel straight lines. I don't feel any curves. Am I right?
That's right. No curves.
Okay. And I feel corners of this shape. And I'm going to use my fancy word, vertices. Let's try that word out. I feel vertices. So I'm going to count them. I can count the corners, I feel like, easier than the lines. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4 corners or vertices. It has 4 corners. And it does feel like that this line is longer than this line. Is that true?
You're correct.
Okay. And it's obviously closed. I'm thinking that I have a rectangle. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So see how I did the whole activity just with my eyes closed and now everything looks really bright. I want you to take turns with your partners now. We'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Do that with a few different shapes. Or you can say 3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. And if we see you're still working, we'll give you some more, but we'd like for you to close your eyes and describe. And I would love to hear from, let's hear from one person. Just share your reflection on that activity. What are the benefits? What do you think your students might do? What are the benefits of closing your eyes and describing something that you feel? Just one person.
We talked about using this. A lot of our preschool or K-4 classrooms do what we call Fun Friday centers, where on Friday we just rotate to centers all day. And we talked about this being a teacher center that they can do with the teacher, so that they can get some of that one-on-one experience with her, or maybe small group experience, and talk about, the shapes and maybe even read the book and then do the activity.
I love that idea. What a great idea. And I love that you're in centers all day Friday. That's a really fun thing. Yeah. And one-on-one building that language. Absolutely. Something I forgot to say when I shared that model is I called this a rectangle because obviously that's the readiness level that I am, but you can do this with children that wouldn't know that that's a rectangle. And if they're just describing the straight lines and the curves or the corners as the vertices, even just the attributes of shape are fine. They don't have to actually name the shape, because then they're beginning to build that language to be able to sort them. So I did want to be clear about that too. Okay. All right. So let's go on and take a look at our next activity. And again, we're going to do something similar to this here in a little bit. And you are going to, for the next activity, what you would do is pull out the shapes. But Jamie and I talked about it and we're about halfway in, and we really wanted to give you a break at 10:30 because that would be our halfway point, right? So if it's okay with you, for this next one, what we're going to do is I'm going to share with you what I would do for this activity, and you will not actually do it unless you do it while I'm talking. That's fine. If you want to pull it out and explore with it while I'm talking, totally fine. But I'm just going to explain it. You'll understand. Okay. So one material you'll see that you do not have in your kit, okay, is these rings. But they are coming to you, okay? They just came in. They were the one material that didn't come in time for the training. They actually came in late yesterday afternoon, just before like 3 o'clock, I think it was, Beth, just before the end of the day. I went to buy the Big Red School and picked up one set so I could show you what they are. These are rings that you can use for sorting. So you just clip them together and it makes a large ring. Children, you can take them outside. I'll let you brainstorm things, in this next session when you talk. You can think about all the ways you might use these rings. You could even just fold them together and that gives you two sorts there. But you get, how many do they get? How many sorting rings will they have coming?
Let's see, they have 2 yellow and 2, no, they have 3 red,
2 red.
Oh, 2 red and
They
2
have
blue, 6.
6. You have 6. You have 2 red, 2 yellow, and 2 blue. Okay. So since we didn't have your sorting rings for today, what I was going to ask you to do, and I'll go ahead and screen share so you can see it for those of you that are visual, is I was going to ask you to take all of the shapes out of your sorting bin. Okay, so you would just have pulled out all of the individual shapes, and then our sorting rings didn't come in yet. So I was going to have you cut 2 pieces of string or yarn, or if you didn't have string or yarn, if you have a hula hoop, if you're at your childcare center and you had a hula hoop, you can go grab a hula hoop. Those work for sorting. Or I was going to have you just draw some circles on a big sheet of paper. So there are lots of ways to sort, but these rings are really nice because they collapse and get smaller. And what I was going to ask you to do was to just sort your shapes into 2 categories, okay? A 2-category sort is sometimes difficult. When you limit the number of categories that children can sort, it makes it more difficult.
Just like when you said to the worm, with the worm, you said find the one that's similar or almost the same. That
Right.
was harder than longer or shorter.
Right. Okay. So if you pulled all of your shapes out, and again, we're going to sort an object with our last book. Okay. So if we pulled all of our shapes out, I want you to take about 30 seconds now, and you can look at your shapes and think about, you can draw a circle if you're visual or whatever. Take about 30 seconds and talk to each other, or if you're by yourself, just think, how could you sort these shapes into 2 groups? What might you do? I'm going to be quiet for just a few seconds while you think.
Okay, sometimes when we're sorting, one of the nice things to start is to choose something and find all the shapes that are the same, and then the things that are not. And Bob Marzano is a researcher that's always said what's really important for kids to know what something is not. Knowing what it is not really helps you know what it is, because as you're sorting through all that in your mind, you're thinking about what it is over and over and over. So that's something that's really a nice way to start for a 2 sort. And that's I would probably do that, what is and what is not. And then you can move into, like, you could have 2 different attributes you're looking for, but you're still looking for the one attribute and thinking, is this yes or no?
So an example for this shape, and you could look at color on this one because this is not an activity that they're doing with their eyes closed. So you could do, is it orange in one ring? And then the other ring is everything that's not orange. Okay. So one ring would be all orange, one ring would be not orange. Or you could look at the shape itself, the shape formerly known as diamond, right? The rhombus. So if that was a conversation you just had with your children about, oh, this is a rhombus, okay, then you could have everything that was a rhombus, everything that was not a rhombus, okay, or exactly this shape. It has to look exactly like this shape. If you had children that are a higher level of readiness and they're ready to count those sides and count those vertices, you could have everything that has 4 sides and 4 vertices, and everything that doesn't have 4 sides.
And you could do the same thing with your worms even.
Absolutely.
Your worms could be in your sensory bin, and you could do a sort from your worms.
Yeah, and we're going to do some sort with other things later. I thought that this was probably an activity. You've probably had children sort shapes before. So we thought this was a good one for us to just sort of share and move on. We knew we planned lots of activities for today because we wanted you to be very busy and have lots of fun things to explore. But we just wanted to point out you can sort what it is and sort what it's not, okay? So we're going to go back into our breakout rooms now, and you're going to have an opportunity to talk to each other. We left these questions the same. Where is the mathematics? How would you use these resources even in different ways? How else might you use them? And then also the connecting it to the Erikson big ideas.
And let's look at the Erickson real quick on
Okay.
that. Just go back to there. So this exact match we talked about, and then sorting by a single attribute, and you could say yes or no on that one. And then we go to the binary sort. That's oh, yes or no is the binary sort. And then when you look at more than one attribute, it goes into multiple. So, but you know, that's a progression. And the reason it's called a progression is because we all move things in different ways. And so, like, you know, they might be working with one attribute, I mean, one manipulative at one level, but when you move to a different manipulative, they may have to go all the way back up to the top again. Yeah, I know you know this.
Yes. So we're working right now on a binary sort. So something you may talk about is, well, how could I have children do a multiple set sort with these materials? Okay. And you'll think of different things. Now, I think the multiple set sort might be easier when we're working with objects that are not just shapes. Sometimes things like teddy bear counters or things that you buy are not as easy to, well, maybe they're easier to sort with, but it's not as connected to the child's life as things that they've collected.
Not as
to
rich of
sort.
an experience.
But it's certainly an okay place to start, and it's okay to do that sometimes because they will have to do those things later when they're in school. Okay, so we're going to put you in those groups now and let you compare to Erickson. It will work just the same as last time. We will do about 5 minutes, meet back really quick, and then we will have a 15-minute break.
Welcome back. Everyone's coming back. Okay, let's hear a little bit of share out about what did you notice? What did you see in this activity?
Maybe tell them how many people you want to share.
We'd like to hear.
It can be,
yes, go ahead.
it can be a very child-led activity. You could just watch them. You don't have to say, I mean, you need to say stuff, obviously, but you don't need to tell her, hey, this is what we're going to do. You can just sit this in front of them and let them explore. Because, you know, they love taking control of everything and they don't like it when you reach in and do it. They want to do it by themselves. So.
Absolutely.
Can you put your hand up to the screen and we can high five each other? There we go. Yes, absolutely. Because if you were there in person, that's what I would do, right? I love that. And that's kind of the whole point of today is absolutely you need to be there to model the language, you know, to guide the questioning and things, but 100%, hopefully you will see every activity that we share with you today is child-led.
Absolutely. And then you know where they are because you're hearing a language from them.
It's the best pre-assessment. It's the best assessment to know where they are is just to listen to what they say when they're exploring and then you know how to push them further. Fantastic.
Okay, let's hear from one more group.
This is called wait time. And when you do it with children, it feels this awkward too.
Yeah, let's just even hear your wonderings, you know, if you had to be wondered about.
Yeah.
In our group, we wondered by looking around our area or thinking about what things we already have and what other objects we could use for this. I mentioned that in the library, we don't have these kind of shape things in large mass, but we do have a lot of teddy bear counters. So if using the teddy bear counters, you could do colors or sizes. Someone else mentioned that they had a lot of 3D shapes. And so they could do the same thing with those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love both of those ideas. And the 3D shapes, that's definitely going to take it, you know, because it's going to feel like it's round or it's straight. I mean, they're going to use some similar vocabulary, but with different options. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's really about your collections. And as we move on, you'll probably think about all kinds of collections you have.
Yeah. Something I didn't say, the way, one of the suggestions for that sensory bin with shapes is to find the exact match with your eyes closed. Okay. So obviously if the children's eyes are open, they might not find the exact match because it might be a square that is a different color. So that wouldn't work. But if they close their eyes, sort of the goal after they're describing is to find something else in there that's an exact match, like a treasure hunt. I did forget to share that. So
You know, what's always fun when you're working with children too is sometimes they'll talk about color when their eyes are closed, and you know why, because they really don't have their eyes closed.
right.
So that's always fun too. Sometimes you have to put a little mask on, like
Yeah.
a little blindfold over their eyes, and they enjoy that. Or
Yeah.
sometimes little headbands work well over their eyes too.
Mhm. Yeah, you could do that. They might make it more fun, but obviously if a child had a sensory issue, you wouldn't want to do that. You just let them explore with their eyes open and share what they hear. So that's good. Okay, so we are going to take a 15-minute break now. We will meet back at what is it? It is-
We will come back. Let's see. We'll be coming back about, let's say,
Are we doing
5.
15 minutes or are we gonna
Let's do
10?
5 till 11. How's
Okay.
that?
All right. Come back at 5 till 11. We added another slide in there with the definition of a rectangle and the definition of a square. It has both a picture and the written definition. And we noticed Wikipedia, I don't know Wikipedia if we checked that one, but Merriam-Webster has it wrong. He is, because they use the common layman's definition. That's why sometimes there's things in Webster that are not actual words. Like I think bay for baby, right? Bay got added in recently. They use the common definitions, and most people do use rectangle to mean one side's longer. When you look at true math definitions, we went to university websites and copied that in for you. So you can see that in the PowerPoint. You just may have to refresh it for it to show up for you.
Mhm.
So we'll see you back 15
Okay,
minutes.
15 minutes. Thank you.
We're a couple minutes over.
We're back.
Yes, we're a couple minutes later, and I'm sorry. And I know that wasn't quite 15 minutes, and sorry about that, but I promise we're going to let you out at 12. Okay. So we're going to honor your time there. Thank you for letting us have that connection too. If you were there during break and you could hear, my younger son has cerebral palsy. He had a stroke before he was born. And so I actually worked, I stopped working for a year totally, just to sort of devote myself to his therapy and what that meant. And so during that year, we started going to every story time ever. So Miss Elizabeth is on here, and we still go to her story times when we go read. She has a program where he gets to go read before COVID with dogs and things. But then Miss Lori Baker, I recognized her, and she used to lead our story times at Barnes & Noble sometimes, and he really enjoyed that. And the library in Barnes & Noble were he used to walk with a little walker, and it was the first place in the community that I felt comfortable taking him out with just me and his walker, because that was emotional as a parent too, as you can imagine. Like, where can I go to safely let my child explore? And that was our safe place, and we would do that before story time. So we'd get a cookie from the cafe and practice speech goals, and it was such a big part of our life. So thank you for letting us have that really quick connection. That's just real world there. So Jamie, I'll let you get us started.
Okay. Well, you'll notice on our screen that Allison put in the definition then for rectangle and square. And we really did acknowledge this a little bit before, but we just want to remind you of this, and that
let you know that it's there.
Yeah.
Like, so if you need to look back on it.
Right. And so that when you look at the mathematics websites, or if you even just type in a definition of rectangle and geometry, this comes up.
Or just the question, are all squares rectangles?
Mm-hmm. But we do know there's a lot of misinformation out on the internet, and not just about politics, but also about geometry. Who knew? Yeah. So anyway, it is important. These concepts that are being developed move on, and you are the foundation. We want that foundation to be set up.
Yeah,
so.
I really like the visual there, because it shows you that a square is just a special kind of rectangle. Okay, so that's why it's fit inside there.
Okay.
All right, so you have talked about those, and we are moving forward. Get ready to dance, okay? So dig out your
perfect
book.
Time to dance.
Barnyard dance. All right. So hop up wherever you are. I'm
Push
gonna
our
move
chair
this
out of the
chair out of the
way.
way.
Oh, Caroline, are you? And Elijah's over here too in the wings.
Elijah, my 15-year-old.
Oh, he's gone.
He decided not to. Looks like he gave his brother the Star Wars game. All right, so we're gonna read Barnyard Dance by Sandra Boynton. Did I say that right?
I think
Boynton?
so.
I might be saying it wrong. I'm sorry if I am, but she is a classic too. It's like Leah Leonian. Really, all three of ours so far have been classics. All right, so here we go. Get ready to dance.
We love classic.
Okay.
Classic
Stomp
music.
your feet, clap your hands. Everybody ready for the barnyard dance. Bow to the horse, bow to the cow.
I'll be cow.
Neither one of us wants to be the cow.
I'll be the cow.
Twirl with the pig, as you know how.
Gotta love a pig.
Bounce with the bunny. Strut with the duck. Spin with the chicken tail. Cluck, cluck, cluck. I like your strut. I kind of want to see the strut again. Can you show the strut again? Okay. With a baa and a moo and a cock-a-doodle-doo. Everybody promenade 2 by 2. And I had to look at the picture for promenade. It's a dance like this.
Oh,
Now, I know COVID regulations, you might not want to promenade, but you can just do it by yourself and
It
pretend
looks
there,
like
okay?
some of those, let's see, a Bridgerton dance.
A Bridgerton dance, yes. I loved Bridgerton. All right. Prance with the horses, skitter with the mice, swing your partner once or twice.
You gotta have that same move for lots of different.
Yeah, we have few moves. Stand with the donkey, slide with the sheep. Let's try that again. Slide with the sheep, scramble with the little chicks, cheep, 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 cheep. With the neigh and a moo and a cock-a-doodle-doo and another little promenade.
Sorry.
2 by 2.
Daniel's watching now. Our whole family just wants to watch us dance. Oh,
Okay.
trot.
Trot with the turkey, leap like a frog, take another spin with the barnyard dog. Daniel, did you want to do this or no?
Yeah.
Turn with the cow in a patch of clover. I'll take a bow and the dance is over. With an oink and a moo and a quack, 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 the dance is done, but we'll be back. I hope you enjoyed your barnyard dance. Caroline was amused. So next time she should have to barnyard dance with us. So, did you enjoy your barnyard dance? Get your blood flowing a little bit?
It's good to move around.
I should have turned on my exercise.
Oh,
That
yeah.
should have counted for something.
I have to tell you a little secret about Allison. Speaking of barnyard dance and taking a bow, her very first dance performance the song was "Baby Take a Bow."
We will not be reenacting that today.
She was not quite 3 yet. I'm telling you, she was just absolutely perfect. In her little "Baby Take a Bow."
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure I was perfect. That's like a mother saying that, right? Okay. So
let me just say this: a part of her perfection was watching everybody else to see if they were doing it right.
I probably did do that. Okay. So you don't need any materials for this one. This is one that you just need a space that you can move freely. Now I'm going to show you what I have done, and this is something that you could do too, or you could just open up your book. I just copied a few pages out of the book that were activities. So we have leap with the frog, twirl with the pig, stand with the monkey. Oh, monkey. Stand with the donkey. I was thinking of breathe like a bear. That's a blank one. Slide with the sheep. Bow to the horse. Trot with the turkey. And bounce with the bunny. So I'm going to take these, and so they don't stick together, I'm just going to shuffle them up a little bit, and I'm going to put them back in my brown paper sack. Now, again, you could just do this by opening your book to different pages. Instead of letting you explore this one independently, we're going to do this one all together, like we're in a class together, okay? And this is going to be active. You just need some space that you can move and explore. I will do this one with you. Caroline, you're going to be our timer on this. Is that okay? Okay. So we will do each activity. We're going to start off with 30 seconds. And if we decide that's too high intensity interval training workout, then we're going to switch it to like 10 or 15 seconds.
We know a minute's a long
A
time.
minute is a long time. It doesn't sound long, but it's a long time. Okay. So we're going to pull one out. I will demonstrate the move for you. We will do that move for 30 seconds. Then this is a measurement activity. We are either going to put our hand on our chest and feel our heart rate. You can put your hand on your chest. Sometimes you can put your hand on your neck. on your own body, not on someone else's body. This is from the Dollar Tree. When I do this activity not during COVID times, I get one of these oil funnels from the automotive section of the Dollar Tree. And what kids can do in partners then is I can put this on her chest and listen. And it's really an old school stethoscope. And I can hear how her heart beats. Okay. So remember when we worked with the worms, we had one of our friends gave us a sentence starter, and she would say, she said, this object, the coffee cup, is about the same length as the long worm. We're going to come up with a sentence starter for this one too, to describe our heart rate, but let's just go ahead and get started. So I'll go ahead and everybody stand up if you're not, or get your own area. And
We don't cut our heads off.
yeah, you don't want to just see the belly.
That was scary.
Was sorry for that. So I'm gonna let you just reach in there. Probably should have folded these in half so they didn't stick together, but that's okay. Let you reach in and pull out an activity.
Oh, I hope I get stand with the donkey.
She said, I hope I get stand like a donkey or stand with a donkey.
Oh, no.
She got a hard one on the first one. Okay, leap like a frog. So Caroline, come over here so we can see you with the timer. And Caroline's gonna tell us when to start and when to stop. So get yourselves to some area that you can move around. And I don't think I need to demonstrate this one unless you all just want me to, but I do have this fear of being an internet sensation in a bad way from recordings. So you're gonna leap like a frog, however you feel like a frog leaps, okay? This one's pretty straightforward. So Caroline, you tell us when to start. I'm gonna do it with you for 30 seconds. Feel free to turn your exercise on. Come over here and do our timer so they can hear you, okay?
Am I counting?
Just tell them when to start and stop.
Okay, ready? Yeah. Start.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot of leaping.
15 more seconds.
Oh, 50 seconds. Our littles are going to be much happier.
I'm feeling it might not be 30 seconds this time. Anybody?
Okay, stop.
Oh,
Okay, really quickly. Hands on your chest or on your throat.
I can feel it.
I'm gonna listen. Oh, I can hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get my breath. Okay, so
Are we doing 15
help me.
seconds next?
Yeah. So help me think of a sentence starter for that. To each other, describe how your heartbeat sounded. Did it sound faster or slower?
My heart felt as if it were very fast.
You want to listen to mine?
Yes.
Your mouth on. You hear it?
Ooh, it feels like a bird heartbeat.
It's a bird heartbeat. It's really fast.
Yes.
I can still feel it. Can you feel your heart beating fast? Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to do another exercise and we're going to compare our heartbeats. Okay.
Okay.
Please
Right.
pull out a good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull out that donkey.
I feel like we should do 30 seconds again to compare.
Yes, I do too.
That's
Because
fine. I'm just standing
Because if
here.
we change the
We can
time,
do a
it'll be a
minute.
different variable.
Oh!
She got stand with the donkey.
Oh, it's our reward from heaven.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to
You should've
do.
got stand. I'm seeing twirl like a with the pig.
Okay, so these will be our next two. What do you guys want to do next? Do you want to? We should pick two. Do you want to do stand with the donkey or twirl like a pig? You can call out. Spin or stand. What do you want to do? Oh, I see people spinning.
Twirl. And like a donkey.
Oh, I heard both.
Okay, they can choose.
Okay, you can choose. So do one this time and one next time. I'm going to pick for us and we're going to go on and twirl and then we're going to stand. Okay, so we picked our last two. So Caroline's going to start the 30 seconds and we're going to be twirling, but if you'd rather stand first, you can do that. Okay? All right.
I'm ready. Okay, ready? Set. Go.
Oh, you got a dress on. It's unfair. She's really twirling.
I mean, if you wanted to make it hard, you could do squat jumps, like where you squat and you jump. You
Oh,
could,
yeah, you could do that.
You can make it harder. No, I would make it harder.
We're gonna knock off everything off the shelf.
Okay, let's just twirl. Okay. What if we're dizzy? I feel like we need to spot our head.
Yeah, stare at that.
Pirouettes.
30
Oh,
seconds
you
to
can
stop. She forgot to tell us to stop. Okay.
I was too invested.
She was invested in her twirling. All right, so let's listen to her heart rate again, and we're going to compare it to when we were leaping like a frog. I can hear your heart. Hear it?
It's still really fast. You're fast.
Okay, but it's not as fast as it was.
No.
So my heart rate is slower when I twirled.
Yes.
My heartbeat is slower when I twirled. It's still fast.
You were faster when you leap like a frog.
Yes. So you were the same. So do you hear how we said it both ways? My heart rate was slower, although it was still fast. It was slower when I twirled. My heart rate was faster when I leapt like a frog. So we're going to do our last one now, which is stand like a donkey. You may be in a different order. That's okay. And we're going to do a deep breathing exercise. If you're doing stand like a donkey right now, you're welcome to do it with us. So we're going to touch hands, and Caroline, start the timer. I'm going to put my little stand like a donkey finger here. And we're going to breathe in when we go up the finger. We're going to breathe in when we go up the finger and out when we go down. Okay?
Okay, go.
All right, so we're going to listen now. Leave your heart rate is slower.
Yeah, your heart rate is much slower than before.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to stop. Thank you, Caroline. Vibes. Okay, and thank you, Mama, for doing that activity. Thank you to everybody. I want to come back so I can see everyone's faces. Now we have more that we could do, but I think we'll go ahead and stop there. I think you get the gist of the idea. I'd love to hear some of your sentences that you noticed. My heart rate was my heart beat faster when, my heart beat slower when. We'd love to hear from two people.
My heart rate was faster when I was leaping like a frog, and my heart rate was much slower when I stood like a donkey. Sorry, I couldn't hear
It's
you.
okay if you're sharing the same thing. We just need one more friend to share.
My heart rate was faster when I was leaping like a frog, but not as. My heartbeat was fast when I was twirling, but not as fast as when I was leaping like a frog.
All
Nice
right.
job.
Yeah. So you'll see when we shared those, we tried to share when it was faster and when it was slower. Okay. And the reason we wanted to model that is so often with young children, what's the first sign that we teach children? Or not the first, but one of the first. Does anybody know what this is a sign for? I see some of you saying it.
More.
More. Okay. So that's one of the very first signs that we teach children is more. Does anyone know the sign for less? I don't know the sign for less either. You might know the sign for less, but I always have to go look it up whenever. I usually look it up before I have this conversation. because children often want more. I want more cookie. I want more playtime. I want more milk, right? That's something they're communicating often. And I want you to think about this as it connects to math. What do you think is easier for children, adding or subtracting? Adding, right? And we know that when we learn math or we learn any other concept, it's just based on things we already know. Oh, did you find the sign for less? Someone just did it.
My daughter's becoming a sign language interpreter. I looked it up.
Thank you. Okay, she said this
Less.
is. Okay, so everybody practice that, less. Okay, so when we talk about more with children, we also want to be sure and talk about less, because there are sometimes you want less of something, right? Or it might not be something you want. You could say, oh, I have more red crayons. I have less, or I have fewer green crayons, right? So often it's natural for us to talk about more, adding more to things. So we want to be sure we talk about less also. The same is true when you're talking about, sorry, my dog has decided to bring her baby over here for you to enjoy listening to the squeak. So we want to be sure if we talk about faster, we also talk about slower. Just like with the inchworms, if we talked about longer, we also talked about shorter, okay? So I just wanted to bring that up. This is a really fun activity to do with children. If, for example, if it's a rainy day and you can't go outside, or if you're in between, you're transitioning, or maybe coming out of nap time and they're really down, they're really still tired, and you need to bring them back up, then you can do this activity. It will bring them back up. Okay, or if they need to get some energy out. It's a really fast way to do that. I've also done this at Valentine's parties when we talked about heart and heart health. The stand like a donkey, where we did the mindfulness breathing, I do that. And there's another favorite book I have called Breathe Like a Bear, and I use it at a lot of trainings. But it is strategies to practice deep breathing, and that will bring children down. So if you've just come in from playing outside, or something the children are really excited about and you need them to come down, then you can do the stand like a donkey and do some deep breathing, okay? So it brings math in, but it also brings in moving your body and enriching the vocabulary. Does that make sense to everybody? Thank you. Okay, glad it does. So we're gonna go back to the screen share. We're gonna get ready.
If I can say one thing real quick before you move off
Yes.
of Sandra Boynton.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with her work, she has a lot of books that are set to music that you can look up the videos to. The kids really love those. There's lots of counting books. There's lots of really fun songs that she has that she's set to music, and there are videos for.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely want to do that. And there is music for this one too. I'm pretty sure. We don't have it in here.
It's inside here.
If you open the first, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because I would have forgotten that. If you open your inside front cover, it tells you where to go to get the music for this. So how fun would it be to listen to that music and do that activity? And you wouldn't have to draw them out of the bag. You could just do
that's right.
Just do the whole dance. So thank you so much for sharing that. And for our second activity with this book, we tried to show you at least 2 activities with each book. This one, you're going to need your sensory bin with the shapes taken out of it. So you'll just need your sensory bin, or if you're in your classroom and you already have a different sensory bin, you can use the one you have in your classroom if you have one with rice or beans or whatever. But you'll see, I just put all of our shapes in a Ziploc bag, and I'm just taking those out, and I'm just using the filler right now. And then you have a Ziploc bag that I prepared for you, and I had Christina helped me at my friend at Greg, and it has cards that look like this, and it has animal faces, and it has 4 cups and a paper bag and a spoon. Okay. So while I'm talking to you right now, I want you, or a team of you, if you're with several people, I do need that paper bag that I pulled the Barnyard Dance. I recycled. Okay, so you will take, and all of this is written out for you too. So you will take your cards with the numbers on them, So they're in all different orders. You'll take your number cards and you're gonna put those in your brown paper bag. That's just become your feed sack, okay? Then
Some of our kids know all about feed sacks and some people might not.
that's right. So then you're going to take your animal heads and cut those out. And I taped mine onto my cup. If you're going to laminate these because you want them to use with children, you may choose just to lay yours on top of your cup today. I thought if I were going to use these with children, I would probably laminate them before I use them. But I just went ahead and my cups are different than your cups. I only bought exactly enough for you all to have. I forgot to buy some for me. So I just used our drinking cups here at the house that we had. And we're going to set these farm animals down in our sensory bin. So this one is the cow and the sheep are kind of like a hinge that the mouth will open. But the chicken, I just taped up on the cup. You can tape it whatever way is most meaningful to you. Or like I said, for today, you can just
Set it down,
in there. And you don't have to use all of them. You could just have one animal in there. You could have two animals in there. You can have all four animals in there if you can fit them. It's your choice how many animals you put in there. But basically, you just need at least one animal in there, okay? And then your spoon is how you will feed these animals. And we're just going to set that in the sensory bin. So just to show you what I have my sensory bin. I have 3 animals in here that I can choose to feed. And I have my spoon and I have my number cards in my little feed sack. And how I'm going to play this game is I'm going to have a friend and we'll take turns since we might be in partners. And if you would pull out from the feed sack, pull out one of the cards. Ooh,
hungry animal.
My animals are really hungry today. So I'm sorry, this camera is flipped. Okay, so it's 8. I have the word 8. I have the number 8. And I have 8 spoons over here. So I'm going to choose an animal and I'm going to choose my sheep because it's the one I think maybe you can see the best. And I am going to feed my sheep 8 scoops. So 1. Can you help me count? Can we count together?
Absolutely.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
And we know that you might not want to start out with the card of 8, but
Right.
you might move up to that at
Yeah.
some point.
So if you only want to put 1 to 5 in your bag, that's fine. But we're going to give you just the next minute or two to finish getting this set up and to just explore and take turns sort of feeding your animal. So I'm going to mic off for a minute and let you guys finish creating this and go ahead and just explore. If you're with your team, you can talk about how you'd use it. If you're not, you can just think about how you might use this with your littles.
Okay, let's come back together for a moment. So we discussed earlier, you really can control a lot of this by deciding, which cards you want to put in. And we know about the standards, of course, but let's look at this for a second with Erikson together and let's see if we can connect that. So one thing that Erikson reminds us about connecting number words to objects, actions, ideas, and symbols. How did this little sensory activity with the scoops, how did it do that? A couple of you mic on and talk about that. How did we do this? How did we connect number words to objects, actions, ideas, and symbols with this activity?
The pouring of the scoops.
Okay, talk a little bit more about that, Elizabeth. How did that pouring of the scoop matter?
Well, in doing that movement, we were counting each one as we went.
Absolutely. And counting, and then and even the pouring really gave you a sense of the volume, I think. And you could see the volume of change inside the cup versus outside the cup. It's very interesting. Yes, let's hold that up.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see this activity done with toilet paper tubes, and it works well for that, and it's easy for cleanup because it goes right through. But I do like using the cup because, like she said, you can see the volume at the end.
Mm-hmm. Really gives you a sense of collection.
Right.
And all those things matter. What else?
If you use different numbers for each animal, then you can use that for your less and more lesson as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is less, this is more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a great thing just to talk about with the children. Like, I mean, I don't know, I would have to look this up to know if it's true, but which animal would you assume eats more, a cow or a chicken? And if you looked at real pictures of cows and chickens, you could talk about, which one's bigger. Cow's quite a bit bigger than a chicken. I mean, I hadn't really thought about that, Lori, but that's a great idea, great connection.
Mm-hmm. And some of our kids may have some experience in feeding animals and others would not.
So if they did not, what I do for children when I'm gonna read a book like this, or I'm gonna change my dramatic, because let's talk about what centers this could be at. It could be in dramatic play, it could be in math.
Mm-hmm.
I think dramatic play would be a really fun way to add math into dramatic play. So if I'm gonna have like a farm or farmer's market dramatic play station in my room, then I think it would be really cool if I had children that had not been to a farm to do a virtual field trip to the farm. Something I keep right up here in the little brain break area are cardboard VR goggles. And you can go to YouTube, type in Farm 360, and I guarantee you it will probably have a farm tour that comes up. I do it a lot with zoos. So like you might do that with Color Zoo if you're going to expand into sorting animals and things with Color Zoo. And let them go on a field trip to the zoo, because that's going to help build the schema for children that may not have been to a farm or have been to a zoo. It really helps them. So I'm glad you both brought those things up.
So another exploration would be that you just even have different size of scoops, and you could even have that located on your card too. There's all kinds of ways to vary, to have a variance with this. But let's go back and let's look back at Erikson. So we talked about this. Oops. Okay. And it talks about developing a visual number sense. And that's a little bit about that volume, because that number sense, when you see that grow, that is visual. And they've felt it. They've even felt that pouring. We know what sensory items, we know how that matters. So
yeah.
we'll go ahead and move on. But you see these, what's so wonderful about Erikson, it gives you ideas of what it looks like in your classroom with your kids.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that Erikson, we used it to talk and to debrief, but it actually has even activities that would extend on what we've done. So for example, we're doing number and counting and looking at the dots as the scoops on there. But that, like, another example it had was an example of a number line. So it's going to give you ideas for how to expand even more ideas than we're sharing with you today. We're going to read a new favorite book of mine. This is also a Caldecott honor. And I think Inch by Inch was a Caldecott honor because they're both silver. But this is a newer one. And it's called All the World. Now you'll notice many of the books we use today, like Barnyard Dance and All the World, are also rhyming books. So they're great for phonological awareness. So you're not just teaching these skills in isolation. This might be a book, and remind me at the end, I'll tell you how I change this activity to make it a phonological awareness activity versus a math activity with the same book, okay? Do you want me to read this one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All the World. Rock, stone, pebble, sand. Body, shoulder, arm, hand. A moat to dig, a shell to keep. All the world is wide and deep. Hive, bee, wings, hum. Husk, cob, corn, yum. Tomato blossom, fruit so red. All the world's a garden bed. Tree trunk, branch, crown, climbing up and sitting down. Morning sun becomes noon blue. All the world is old and new. Road, street, track, path, ship, boat, wooden raft. Nest, bird, feather, fly. All the world has got its sky. Slip, trip, stumble, fall, tip the bucket, spill it all. Better luck another day. All the world goes round this way. Table, bowl, cup, spoon, hungry tummy, supper soon. Butter, flour, big black pot. All the world is cold and hot. Spreading shadows, setting sun, crickets, curtains, day is done. A fire takes away the chill. All the world can hold quite still. All the world is you and me. Everything you hear, smell, see. All the world is everything. Everything is you and me. Hope and peace and love and trust. All the world is all of us. I just love the message in that book. It talks about good days, bad days. It has all of these different settings in it, and that's how we're actually going to pull out for this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you to do this while I'm talking to you for a second. That way, it's just ready for you. I want you to find your touch and match game. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and open it up, and everything is in little plastic things. Some things are like several things are in a bag and some are individual. Go ahead and just get those open while I'm talking. So that's ready for you. The other thing that we're going to ask for you to do is to grab 2 sheets of paper, or you can take 5 sheets of, if you want to make it easy, just take 5 sheets of paper together and you'll have a really big 5 frame. We wanted to be able to show you on camera. Now, if you're working with children, that's great because you can really spread that out on the floor to use 5. You can even use those jumbo sheets of paper and they can stand on them. You can laminate it. Another way I've done that is a shower curtain with painter's tape that they can see it. But because we want to be able to show you ours on camera, we just took a paper and divided it, 2 papers and divided it into fourths, and then cut them apart and taped 5 of those smaller sheets of paper together. So I'll fold them on the joint so you can see. Basically, what you're making here is just a 5 frame. Okay. So while you get those things made, now I will say, if you don't want to do that for today's purpose, if you just want to take a piece of paper and draw a 5 frame, that's totally fine. However you get your 5 frame is just fine with me. And if I was working by myself, I might just draw one on a sheet of paper for today and know that I might make one later if I didn't have a large one. Okay. But I want to talk to you about this book for just a second while people are getting their things open. I love this book, one, because it talks about how we're all together, even if we're having bad days, good days, and we're from all different places. I think there's many rich activities that you can pull from this. I told you we used this last week with Hardin County CECC for a phonological awareness PD, and I would do a seek and find for them, just like how we did the worm seek and find for you, but we would pick a word out of here, and I think one of the words was moat. Okay, and we were working on onset and rhyme. So we were working on onset beginning sounds. So moat, we hear we would challenge the children to go find something around their house that starts with the sound. You could do the same thing with the word moat and do it with the final sound and find something that ends with a t. Okay, so people found lots of things around their house. So that's how we use this for phonological awareness. Obviously, it's a rhyming book and you can generate rhymes with it as well. Okay, so I just want to show you that because just because this book would typically be used for phonological awareness doesn't mean we can't use it for math. Now, if I were doing this with children, I might not start by pulling out all of these objects. If I were doing this with children, I might have them go around the room or bring in objects from home if you chose to do that, and let them generate our collection of objects initially for our circle time lesson that were from things that were meaningful to them. Okay, so you can go on a nature walk and they can collect things. You can have them bring things in from home. You can let them go find one thing out of the center that they love that they can carry in one hand, right? So that's how you can make sure that it's not like a giant chair or something. You can put the stipulation on it. Like my mom used to have the rule, you can pick any pumpkin in the pumpkin patch that you want to pick. You can pick any pumpkin. You just have to be able to carry it while we're here today. So that helped me limit the pumpkin that I choose, right? So you can do that same thing with children. You can pick anything in the room that you'd like to bring back and share with us that you love.
As long as it fits in your backpack too.
Right, as long as it fits in your backpack or as long as it fits in one hand, okay? So that's an easy way to do that. But if I were working in small group with children, I think that this is a fantastic collection. This touch and match game to use for many, many different skills. Okay, again, you could use it for some pre-reading skills. You could use it for speech language. You can use it for OT things if they're picking it up. And we're going to use it for math today. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. And the page that stuck out to me, I think because I haven't been on a vacation in a really, really, really long time, it feels like, and I can't remember when I saw the ocean last. It's been several years. And so I really would love to see the ocean. That's just sticking out to me. So the first thing, hopefully you've had time to open your stuff now while I've been talking. And the first thing that we would like for you to find, you can find up to 5 things. That's why you have your 5 frame, okay? So you'll put one object in each frame. You can find up to 5 things you might find at a beach. And we're just going to use our little collection here, but if you have other things in your room you want to add, that's okay. I'm not going to limit you, okay? But you definitely have all that you would need right here. So Jamie and I are going to talk, and we're going to do this too. We're going to find up to 5 things. So we can find 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, or 5 things that we might find at a beach, okay? Go ahead and do that and lay them out on your 5 frame. Okay, take about 10, 15 more seconds to finish finding your beach items. Go off screen share so they can see. Is that okay? Okay, I have just tilted my camera. And you know what? I think on camera that's not super easy to see. We can see here in person where our lines are for our 5 frame, but that's not easy for you to see.
So you might want to draw a
So I'm
line.
just going to draw a line where those joints are. I'll let you do that.
Okay.
So I just tilted the camera so you can see our workspace, I hope. And I wondered if you might help me count. These are the items we thought we would see most often at the beach. Can you help me count how many items that we have? It's okay that your mic's off. We can still see you counting with us. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's do what we did I think that she had a fabulous start for us. Let's put that in a sentence, okay? Because later in life, we tell children, oh, no naked numbers, right? So 4 doesn't mean as much, but maybe one of them could tell me what sentence could I say to tell people that I found 4 things? Can somebody give me a sentence that would share to my friends something about my 4 things?
I have found or identified 4 objects that you would see at the beach.
Excellent. I have found 4 objects that you would see at the beach. Great.
One of
Does
my teachers said, at the beach, I found these items.
At the beach, I found these items, and you could name them. I found 1 hat, 1 octopus, 1 shell, 1 ice cream. And so really, if you say it that way too, the first time we were looking at, I found 4 items, which is what I was thinking of, 4 items. But when you say I found 1 hat, 1 octopus, 1 shell, and 1 ice cream, what are you teaching children? 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And then we put it with our first answer. I found 4 beach items. We just showed them 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. Does that make sense?
We always start with a 5 frame because it just organizes it for us.
Yeah. And the age of your children, you could do this with a 10 frame also, right? You would just you would just build another one right below it. So if your children were already fluent in numbers 1 to 5, and that's not just recognizing the numbers 1 to 5, that's actually being able to count it with 1-to-1 correspondence, then you could move on. And I want to show you how this relates to later math, okay? So later math, children will learn things about array models. So this would be 1 row of 4, and that is 1 times 4. So when you teach children on a 5 frame, you're teaching them not just counting with 1-to-1 correspondence, you're laying the foundation for them to understand multiplication later. Because when teachers introduce multiplication to them, this is what it will look like. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do the next one. We have one more challenge. Excuse me while I throw the book across the room. And my next one is, I want you to find up to 5 items that you may find in your home. So again, we'll take about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, find up to 5 items you may find in your home. Can I just say, I'm sorry that y'all are missing this conversation we're having right here, because my partner just started unloading all the stuff. And I said, can I think? And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. I said, can I think and put some out? She said, oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. Then she said, what about the orange? Well, it's not thinking if you're telling me what to put out.
It's hard for me to be quiet.
I pick something different just because you said it. Okay. Does anyone want to share what they found instead of just using our objects again? Would anyone like to share? Oh, I see a camera tilted. We'd love to hear you share what you found.
We found 1 egg, 1 string of yarn, 1 light bulb, 1 sponge, and 1 orange.
Excellent job. And this is another wonderful math strategy to do with children. Can someone add on to their answer to tell the total number of items they found? So they said we found 1, I can't see it all right now because it's small on my screen, but we found 1 yarn, 1 sponge, 1 this, 1 that, 1 that. How can we add on to the answer to tell the total number of items they found in their house?
Say it. Altogether, we found a total of 5 items in our house.
Excellent job. Excellent job. And I like to teach that add-on strategy, because what that teaches children to do is that teaches them how to communicate with each other. They're so used to learning in isolation that they don't always understand how to work and think together. So I just use those words add on all the time. Can you add on to Jamie's answer? Can you add on? And that helps build community. It helps them see each other as a team and not as isolated, like he's good at math and I'm not good at math. We're working on math together. Does that make sense? Add-on is a good tool for that. Would one more person like to share? I see some more cameras tilted. Did someone else really want to share? I don't want to take that away from you.
We got almost the same thing, but we added a key. We had a key instead of a what? Did they have? They had, I think they had they had an orange, I think. And we put a key. I can't show it with my computer.
It's okay. It's okay. It's tricky to show it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So we each had the same topic, right? Again, going back to that differentiation, and we each saw different things as what would be in our house. So excellent job. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next one. So take your, actually, you need your 5-frame for this one. You need everything you have out. I'm going to talk you through doing this instead of going back to the PowerPoint because that's just going to take more time, okay? So what you need to do now is count out 5 objects. Now, if I were doing this with children and they weren't yet fluent in counting to 5, I would use the 5-frame to help them count to 5. Then you're going to open up your mystery box, and we're going to do something similar that we did with our shapes. We're going to put 5 objects in our mystery box. She's giving me 2 more because I had 3, so we counted on. So we had 3 items that we had to count on and add 2 more. And you remember when we did, let me take my barnyard animals out. See how I'm trying to get the most bang for our buck out of each of these objects? We're using them for more than one thing. Remember when we put the sensory shapes in here in the sensory bin and we closed our eyes and we described? I'm going to give you 30 seconds now, 30 to 45 seconds. And I want you at your tables to close your eyes and describe. And look, you can do 2 hands in. Okay, there's a hole on each side. So we're going to reach in and not find each other's hand. We're going to find an object, not my hand. And I'm feeling the object. I'm not going to look at it. And I'm going to describe it. And then she's going to describe hers to me. Okay.
Okay, we had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had as much fun when you were describing. So let's talk about that, about how that these activities connected to describing earlier with our, when we were using our sensory box. So how did you use the language that you learned from your sensory description for describing inside your mystery box? How did that work? Let's talk about that.
So you maybe use even some of the same words. Like I would say, oh, I feel straight lines on this, right? Did you do that?
Did you use any of the words that were the geometry type words?
Yeah. Did you talk about shape? You talk about lines and you talk about curves.
We talked about if this stuff was either edible or not edible, if you could find it in the home. What else did we do, guys? Pointy, smooth, things like that. Soft, hard, round, cube.
Absolutely.
Lots of language words.
So you're even getting into those attributes that you're going to use in Explore in Science too, right?
Absolutely.
Elizabeth, do you mind to mic on and ask your question? I can see just a tiny bit of it.
It's slightly off topic, but with all of this touching and sensory, I was wondering how in a group setting with the classroom right now, how these are safely done.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that you heard, I think Lori answered part of that earlier in the sensory bin right now. She felt like the safest way to do that would be in small group. in small group or one-on-one with the teacher. I know that our childcare centers have lots of rules about cleaning, and they have lots of regulation and things that they're following right now about children using things. And nod your head at me if I'm correct about that. You have lots of protocols with cleaning that you're currently facing, you know, about how many children you have working together, or if it's just one-on-one with the teacher. I think you would continue following all of those protocols.
If
that you've
somebody could direct me toward great places to find those, I'm going to put my email in the chat, because the library does not get those, and we would like to do in-person programs too.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I know Beth Schaefer is on. She might be stepped away from her computer right now, but we'll make sure that she gets that sent to you. Okay.
I'll do that.
Thank you so much,
Elizabeth,
Beth. You're the best.
a lot of the things that we've done today are plastic or cloth. There's no cloth. Cloth is the biggest no-no right now for COVID. The yarn might be a problem, but anything else that can be sprayed with a disinfectant or used in or have a bleach water solution is fine. And we actually were had a conversation here about the little purple pellets are perfect because they can be cleaned versus like beans or rice or something like that you can't really get wet. So just, you know, anything that can be cleaned really or wiped down is fine.
Lori, thank you so much. That's one reason we bought this sensory bin is one, we just wanted you to have it to use for this training, but also because we knew rice and beans and things that we typically use are not able to be cleaned. So thank you so much for sharing that. So she's right. You might want to take that yarn out of that tools kit right now if you're going to use it, but absolutely with COVID, 100% follow all of those guidelines. And thank you, Beth, for sending that to Elizabeth at the library. That's very important as you all get back to face-to-face programming and just
This is what we had made a comment that we could just lay out the objects and play like an I Spy game. And use those descriptive words just by looking at it. Can they look at it and see, oh, this would be smooth, or this would be rough, or this would be pointy, or even using colors, because I do have a lot of younger ones. So, oh, it's something that is green and all that. So that's also another really good COVID way to do this.
Fantastic idea. I Spy games are great, right? So anything that we've done a seek and find to for, you could change to an I Spy game. I think that that's perfect. Those are also great to send home to families. They can I Spy in the car. I Spy something longer than your arm, right? Look out the car window, find something longer than your arm. So you would change it. The other thing I just thought of as you were speaking is you can buy like the snack size Ziploc bags too. So you could put objects in the bag and it won't be the same as feel like if I had my own Ziploc bag, maybe the pine cone is probably a better example. I can't feel, because that might be something it's harder to clean, the pine cone, because it's a natural fiber. But I can't feel it exactly the same if it's in this Ziploc bag, but I can still feel that it feels pricklier than an orange. Does that make sense?
With the snack size Ziploc bag on the outside.
Yes, a snack size Ziploc bag on the outside. So then each child could have their own bag. That way you only have one child that
like the pumice stone, for instance.
Yeah, I didn't even unwrap the pumice stone because I just thought that was coming apart already and that was going to be difficult to use.
But you still can feel.
Yeah. Absolutely. You guys had fantastic ideas. Okay. Now we did have one more activity that we were going to do, and I think we'll just talk through it because we're at the end of our day. And if you want to just do it while I talk through it, or you want to just listen, that's fine. It was our sorting. So what we were going to do is tidy and sort, clean up and sort. So I would bring out 2 baskets, or I could use those 2 sorting rings that I showed you earlier. I could use 2 sheets of paper, and I would say, oh gosh, guys, now we have all of our toys out, right? And they're probably spread out on the table. Okay, they're not probably still in this nice box, okay? But we have all of our toys out, and I have these 2 baskets to tidy up in. So take a look at that. Let's take 15 seconds at your table right now, or 15 seconds to think to yourself, how could you take these, touch and match, and sort them into 2 baskets if I gave you 2 tidy up baskets? So we're going to talk about that. You guys talk to each other or think with each other. Mute it so we can talk.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have two people share. What were your categories if you were going to sort two things?
One of our teachers said things God made and things that were man-made.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah. Okay, one more. I'll share mine. I know everyone is tired, and if you want to mic on and share, you can. We said that we would sort as things that go in the refrigerator and things that don't go in the refrigerator. So we're going to put our ice cream in the refrigerator, and we're going to put our magnifying glass not in the refrigerator. I like doing that one because then you can challenge parents when they get home from the grocery that week or they do their pickup for that week. Let the child help you sort and learn what goes in the refrigerator and what doesn't go in the refrigerator. But there's a million correct answers to that one. Of course, you can do more than a binary sort. That this little collection you can sort in multiple ways. Okay.
And Allison also said earlier that you could have them bring things and you use your own they bring in their own collections.
Absolutely. So you see that what we did initially was we started with these shapes that are a little more abstract for children. They're not things they see in the real world. And we built the vocabulary with things that there were fewer attributes. And then we moved to the objects that were real world. And there were many attributes and they were sorting eventually in multiple ways. If we'd gone through all of our activities, but we're going to end because it is your Saturday. We're not going to have time to go back into breakout rooms. We're going to end here. We would love for every person, okay, and you may have multiple people there, but so I would write like Allison, even though we're on the same computer, and she would write Jamie. We would love to hear one idea that you put your first and last name, and we would love to hear one idea that you were excited to try soon with your littles, okay? So I'm going to stop the screen share again. That way I can look at our chat box and just ask that you, in that chat box, write one thing that you're excited to explore or a new idea or basically any reflection that you'd like to put in that chat box. And that is our closing activity for today.
We thank you. We thank Beth. Beth, thank you for this opportunity to get to work with you today and spend time together. It's always so rewarding.
I'm excited. You all are motivating, inspiring. There's so many fun things to do. I've had too many folks say math is hard. I didn't do well in math. It's because somebody told them math was hard and they couldn't do well. I think all the things you all presented today are fun, but it's such a higher level than what we're traditionally used to seeing out there.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Beth.
you.
We really enjoyed being here with you all today. And I see lots of good ideas coming in. I just saw someone says that they plan to use all of the touch and find materials as they teach dual language children. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Absolutely.
People are excited about the sensory bin, mystery boxes, the feeding animals. I'm seeing a little bit of all different things, the worms.
It's nice that different things really connect with people.
Yeah,
And it might
great.
depend on which unit you're about to go into.
Right. Yeah. And mystery box, you could use a Kleenex box for this too. If you decided you didn't want to have this out during COVID, you could collect Kleenex boxes.
And
each
everybody can
child
have
could
their own
mystery box.
Yeah, yeah. That's something we really debated about, didn't we?
Yeah, we debated that one.
But we
I'll be
know that.
Sorry, I'll be bringing the circles around to deliver to folks. They came in yesterday after we're getting all the things delivered. So you'll get those big, large circles too.
Thank you so much,
Wonderful.
Beth.
Thank you. Well,
And Elizabeth, I saw Beth put the regulations in the chat box. So if you got them, okay, great.
perfect.
Okay.
And we invite you to stay on. We're going to stay on if you'd like to ask any questions.
Yeah.
But also, let me just say this. If you've entered in your information in the chat box, you're welcome to go
Have a
ahead
fantastic
and have
Saturday.
a wonderful weekend.
Thank you for sharing your Saturday with us.
Be sure you put your name, birthday, and your employer in the chat box. I hate to be a dead horse, but I don't want anybody to miss getting credit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks to all.
Yes, thank you
Thank
all for
you.
being here. Let's see, I see shapes. Oh, thank you. I love how they're telling too how it fits in their units of study that they're doing. That's great. Feeding the animals is differentiated. That's good.
Elizabeth, we love to hear about you thinking about using these tools again at the library.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
I'm excited
Yeah.
because Tamara and Cecily were both at Maine when I received this kit. And so they were like, we have all of these things. And I was like, yes. And I'm going to tell you all the cool things we get to do with them. So
Yeah. Yeah, don't hesitate to call me if you have questions too. And there's so many more things you can do with each of these.
Thanks.
We've so enjoyed being with you all. If anybody who wants to talk about anything or has any questions, we're here. Teaching real words for shapes and corners.
Thank you all so much
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
for doing this. We really enjoy it.
Oh, good.
Enjoyed the one last March also.
Oh, okay.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a year. It's
Hard to believe, but that was our last face-to-face workshop was
Really
last March, I
was.
think.
Yes.
Hi, Michelle Bell. Her picture's there. There she is.
We were having technical difficulties. We were trying to thank you all and say things, and Elise and I were sitting here and we were struggling. Sorry. Now we're the only ones. Imagine that, Beth Shaver. I'm just gonna stick around and talk.
That's good.
Michelle and I went to college together.
Oh,
nice.
Hall directors together, and yeah.
We know each other by our maiden names. That's how long ago it's been.
I love it.
Well, Allison, I actually had Elijah in first grade. I did a maternity leave when I decided to go back to the classroom.
I wondered if that was you. You were fantastic for Elijah. He was having such a rough year. I wish okay, so
have you seen Elijah?
Have you seen Elijah? Is Elijah here?
You said he was 15 earlier. I was like, well, you know what? I want to say I saw him. I worked in the psychology.
Oh, it's gone. Either I have frozen. Am I frozen?
No, Michelle is. You're not.
Michelle's frozen. Okay. Oh, I hate that it's frozen. I think you did go with Caroline.
I don't know what's going on.
Michelle, can you hear me now? It froze. I heard you say I worked in the psychology.
Yes. Last year I did testing assessment for the psychology department, Warren County Schools. So I think I saw him in the halls.
Okay.
At Greenwood.
At Drake's. At Drake's.
Drake's. Yes. Because I was at Drake's and Greenwood and Briarwood. I saw your son Joe at Briarwood. I was in his classroom a couple of times. I don't think I specifically worked with him, but I was in there. I think I did.
Oh, Michelle, you were so good for Elijah. Because that was sort of he had just transitioned to Briarwood. He'd been in another school, so that was new. And plus it was the year we were getting all of Jonah's